We will return to the subject of Islam and democracy, but I first want to get everybody in on the big picture. Minister Khar, your country certainly faces a number of very complicated 21st century challenges. Is democracy up to the challenge of the 21st century?
First of all, I think it is important to highlight that there is no one single utopian model of anything in the world, and that goes for democracy also. However, I think what is equally important to highlight or to give importance to is the topic itself, about the institutions that go to support democracy. And for that, the answer to whatever is not working is clearly more rather than less democracy. But let me emphasize on the fact that democracy has to be able to develop into a maturer form as we speak with time. You need time to be able to evolve into a stronger democratic setup to be able to deliver better. And that is the aspirations of the people, is the eventual goal of any system, democratic or otherwise. So in all of this, I think what we have to keep in mind is that first, that one solution fits all sort of a mindset should obviously be avoided in the case of many, many countries. But in the case of Pakistan, for instance, because this institution of democracy or the democratic institutions, be it the political parties, be it the parliament, be it any of these institutions, never really got a time which was long enough for them to develop and to mature into a proper system. Therefore, of course, we will continue to be a young democracy. So today we are a democracy which is almost 4-year-old, which is only 4-year-old, despite the fact that we have had stunts of democracy in the past also, you know, anywhere ranging between 2 years to 2.5 years. But till the time that you can consistently grow and develop those institutions and have a you know, a model which is there to stay, then democracy will continue to be challenged in the way of delivery.
Minister Patrietta.
Well, if
Minister Khar.
I think, you know, if we miss the whole question or the whole change which has happened all over the world, especially in the developing world or the less developed world, because of the access that they have through the media today, and through various types of technology to what is happening all around the world, and how that has raised the expectation out of any government, democratic or otherwise, from you know, by those people, we will be somewhat not looking at the entire picture. I think that is an extremely important part of why the expectation levels are changing and why democracies all over the world are seen to be performing or delivering less. It also has to do with the way the economic structures all over the world. So I think this question, to me, is somewhat less of democracy and more of what has happened in the economic management and realm of how things have developed. And therefore, you know, to me, frankly speaking, the answer, as a country which has suffered, if there's one single ill, flaw, reason I can find for Pakistan not living up to its full potential, and we are beginning to live up to our full potential, it is because of the fact that we haven't had a consistent democratic process in Pakistan. If that were to be the case, I think many ills that you see in Pakistan today, many ills that we continue to fight, and many ills that, you know, for instance, the leader of the party that I represent, Benazir Bhutto, lost her life for, would not be there today. So it is really the consistency of a democratic process. It is about that process and the institutions which go to support it being given the time, the energy, the resources to be able to develop and start delivering. So the answer really is that, yes, a different structure, you know, more democracy, more democratic ways, and I completely agree with my colleague over here. The electoral process is an extremely important one, and I think anyone doubting the importance of it or the legitimacy of it, or we need to improve wherever need be the electoral process and everything else. But I think the answer to lack of you know, just being satisfied or lack of satisfaction with democracy is maybe looking for more democratic ways of building those institutions. And
we're definitely going to want to talk more about this link between expectations and trust and effective democracy. But immediately the question of economic. Mr. Khar?
You know, it's interesting. I think the ripple effect or the effect in Pakistan would have been very, very different. I'm almost encouraged, you know, thinking of using the word transformationally different had it been maybe 5 years back or 6 years back. when you had a non-representative government in place in Pakistan. Now, then the effect would have been pretty much, maybe we would have seen the Arab Spring find its way somewhere in South Asia, and you could have said that it has sort of crossed some oceans to reach it. But in Pakistan, at the time that this was happening, we had, after years, a truly representative government. And we had a government which was certainly struggling with all the challenges that Pakistan has, which continues to struggle with those challenges. But I tell you, it is interesting that I think this can be corroborated, that in many of the countries which have seen some of the freedom of expressions late in the day, the freedom that the media enjoys in Pakistan, for instance, is maybe unparalleled. I would almost say that it is more than what is enjoyed in some of the developed democracies of the world, where the media is still very aware of the national narrative, what should or should not be said to promote or support it. Whereas in Pakistan's case, sometimes, the national narrative, beyond, they have the ability, the space, the freedom to be able to go beyond the national narrative, so to speak. In the same way, judiciary. Already, in the last years of the Musharraf government, there was a judicial movement in Pakistan, and the independence of the judiciary, as it was enshrined in the Constitution of Pakistan, came to fruition because of work and labor and protests that almost all political parties collectively in Pakistan had done, which included the masses, the people, the lawyers, almost everybody, rural, urban. Now, because some of these things were already underway, the thing that Pakistan requires now is a different set of issues. It's not that of representation, it is not that of freedom of expression, it is not that of every institution constitutionally not finding its place and playing its role. So, quite frankly speaking, the effect of the Arab Spring at this, therefore, was different. However, what is Pakistan's biggest issue, or South Asia at large? It is that of ensuring that we are able to feed our poor and able to give them some sort of a social, system in which they are able to have access and have opportunity. And for that we have, some programs that, for instance, the Benazir Income Support Program, which is for the first time in Pakistan's history, where if you are known to be in the poorest strata of the society, you will be given enough to feed your children. So I think because of those things, because of the fact that you had a new democracy taking roots in Pakistan, the effect wasn't what it would have otherwise been. I'm sure of that.
Interesting. I want to go down to Ken Roth, but before I do, I just want to ask one follow-up question. You stressed the independence of the judiciary, and obviously a central part of any democracy. Has the independent judiciary gone too far now in Pakistan?
I think in Pakistan an interesting thing is happening, and I really would like maybe take a minute on that, okay? I think it's a good thing for Pakistan. What is happening in Pakistan may look chaotic to the outside eye, but it is a new kid on the block called Parliament, which hasn't been there for a long time in Pakistan's history, which has almost not been there consistently for more than 2 years at any given point in time. Now, so every institution has to find its place. So there's a bit of an elbowing act maybe happening in Pakistan, where every institution is trying to find what is rightfully, constitutionally its place. It's not a bad thing for Pakistan, because out of this will emerge everybody falling quietly, hopefully, into the space that is constitutionally provided to them. And as you see, this is the longest serving democracy in Pakistan, so that is in itself first, something which gives you hope for the future.
Mike, I just add that, let me just here.
If I could just, let me just let Minister Khar respond as well.
No, I think I would tend to agree with the Minister over here, and really, I think a lesson that should be learned is that one should allow every country to be able to reach its own mature stage of, in many areas. For instance, one can use the example of child labor. Now, child labor, while it was allowed in Europe for many, many centuries, has a completely different dynamics when it comes to maybe some countries in South Asia. So pressure and open humiliation of countries is sometimes not the best tactic that we feel to be able to let them come around. Now, an excellent example in that case is that of Tunisia and Egypt. There was no pressure coming in from an outside force. There was no nudging maybe even being done as such. There was no military support that was given. It was people who demanded their right in a certain way, who got their right in that way, and then once the people of that particular country have decided and have stood up for their rights and have demanded, then it is really the job of the whole world to really be a support system, to provide a support system to them. But to enforce what are considered to be ideal values, which may be prevalent in one country or the other on another, has always been counterproductive.
Before I come back to Ken Roth, I want to ask Chairman Ghannouchi, do you...
countries, among them Syria, I have any doubt that Syria revolution will be succeed as all other revolutions.
Minister Khar?
I just want to, it just occurred to me that what we're talking about is interesting, becomes even more interesting by the fact that some of the most mature democracies all over the world, some of the most established democracies all over the world, so not just one part of the world, all over the world, have been much more supportive of non-civilian dictatorships in Pakistan, an excellent case in point, than they have ever been of civilian democratic dispensations in Pakistan. And that can be seen in some ways in the Arab world also. So what I was referring to before is pretty much in the same light, that we cannot have a change of heart overnight when our interests can be met in a different way, and cannot propagate our own interests and therefore propagate very, very undemocratic regimes in many, many parts of the world for very many long years. So why I wanted to use the case of Pakistan in specific was that both in the regime of General Zia and in the regime of General Musharraf, it was really the support that came from outside which made them elongate their years into 10, 12 years, rather than the support that should have come from within.
There's no question that the Western governments have supported military dictatorships in many parts of the world, and they've been widely criticized for that, and I think quite legitimately. But the question is, if pro-democracy...
Democrat.
Minister Khar, is the line clear to you between religion and politics?
Certainly, and I think, first of all, I would like to take this opportunity to say that in my mind, Islam is clearly the most misunderstood and also the most misrepresented religion in the world. Because most of the issues that we ascribe to Islam has a completely different perspective on it. And to give you an example which will ring home, it is the whole question of the rights of women in Islam. Islam was the one which gave women their rights. Islam was the one which recognized respect for women and enforced it almost on all believers. So there is the real Islam which is there in the Holy Quran, and there is the Islam that the West portrays, and that we ourselves, we must take the responsibility, misrepresent, because we have let Islam to be interpreted, and we have let Islam to be taken to other people by the most illiterate people in most of our societies. I cannot speak for everyone, but certainly a case in most societies. So the question of whether Islam will come in the way of democratic dispensations, I think Islam actually goes for the most democratic ways of governance than anybody else. And secondly, the whole question of the social structure of delivering to the people, and that is really at the heart of the debate that we are having. Expectations come from the expectations not being met. So clearly the delivery to the people as per their expectations is not happening in many forms, whether it's in the economic form, whether it's in the social realm, whether it's in the political realm, or maybe one is happening more in one country, the other not so much. But if you look into the caliphate, for instance, in what Prophet Muhammad brought to Arabia, to Arab, it was really a completely, not only democratic, but a social system of delivery which will keep all of us, which will embarrass all of us if we were to dig deeper into it. So I don't see these to be contradictory forces. I see this to be supportive forces, to be exceptionally supportive forces. And the best example for that, I hope Pakistan will be a very good example in 10 years, but the best example for that today is Turkey. The level of satisfaction, expectations being met of the people of Turkey is probably higher than many other countries. And there has been, Islam, a political party which was considered to be far too Islamic has delivered more to the people of Turkey than the ones which were not. So I think we should really look at things with a newer lens.
Chairman Ghannouchi, why do you think Islam is so